What's up, y'all? Today I'm going to teach you how to build an old-timey outhouse out of slab construction. First thing we got to do is make our slabs. So cut a big chunk of clay off your bag, and I like to make my slabs by just throwing them down at an angle on the table, preferably a wedging table, plaster table. That way your clay won't stick. You toss it down at an angle, that stretches it out. This was a recycled bit of clay, so I have some air bubbles in there. I'm just going to take my rib here and kind of compact the slab, and if I see any bubbles, you can see I can just pop them there. Here's another view of how I'm doing it. Throw it down at an angle. That's how I like to make my slabs. And again, coming in with the rib there and kind of compacting the slab, that helps make it a little stronger when you do that. Then you got to let them set up to get leather hard. Here it is. Again, I make all these little sort of details out of slabs. So the slab is set up, it's nice and leather hard, and now I'm just going to punch some texture, put some texture into it there with my little texture tool. Again, you really want to wait for your slabs to become leather hard. It just makes it so much easier to construct with them. So after you've rolled them, just let them set out for a bit, maybe a day, depending on how hot or cold your studio is. Now I'm going to start cutting off the sections to build the outhouse. A fettling knife works great. That comes in your basic ceramic toolkit, and an X-Acto knife as well. So that's kind of the size I want. I'm just using it to trace out the other walls I'm going to need to construct the body of the outhouse. Just using my texture tool to trace that so I get a nice clean cut. Comes off of there. Wrap that other piece of slab back up for later in plastic. Now I'm just going to, I've traced out the walls for the outhouse, and again I'm going to just cut out the 4 walls there. X-Acto knife again works pretty good. You know, if you're working on a table that you like, be careful because you will cut little grooves into the table. My table in my studio is, you know, don't care. It's okay if I scratch some lines into it, but if you're working at home, make sure if you're going to cut, maybe put your work on a bat, piece of wood, or a big piece of cardboard or something so that you don't cut up your table. So now I'm just getting these corners ready to construct. So I got to figure out how am I going to put these together. Like that, well then I lose some dimension. Go like that, but then again I lose some dimension. I really kind of wanted to make it a, you know, a nice kind of square shape. So I've got this cool tool here that will cut a perfect 45-degree angle. There, you can see it along the side of the slab. That way I can butt them up together and I don't lose any dimension, and it's a good strong, it's a good way to do it because you get a lot of surface area there, yeah, to join them. You see that? So that's where I'm going to slip and score them together there. Again, 45-degree angle cut. You don't need the special tool, but now it's time to slip and score them together. Lots of different tools you can use to slip and score together. The serrated rib, I prefer that nice score tool. It's got multiple little needles in it, so it expedites the process of scoring. And I just dip it in water and score, dip in water, score. If I need a little more, I just dab some water on there, score through that, and I get a nice slippy and scored surface, which will make a great bond between here. And when working with slabs, you really got to slip and score really well because you don't want them to crack when we fire them. So really slip and score. Now I'm pushing them together, using quite a bit of pressure there to push them together. I like to keep my workspace clean. Coming along, pushing that in. See all the extra slip there. You can see it squishing out. You want to see that squishing out. Now I'm going to blend the 2 slab chunks there together with my wood trim tool. Blend them together. Come through, score, water, score, water, score, and you eventually get some slip. Putting the 3rd wall on here, squishing it together, and you'll be able to hear it as you push your 2 slab chunks together. You'll hear the slip kind of squishing out of there. Now I'm going to come in and blend it there with the wood trim tool again, blend it along. That way you get a really nice strong bond, and then the best thing to do, and I always do this, is I roll a little coil. You know, get a little bit of clay, roll a nice coil. And I do this on all the seams when I slab construct, and then I blend the coil in where the 2 pieces of slab meet, just for a little extra assurance that that is not going to come apart when we fire it. It really makes a really strong bond there. I don't have to worry about that cracking in the firing. Now I got all 4 walls on there. The last piece you put on, obviously, it's hard to get in there and blend. So, you know, I like that chopstick or a dowel to get in there to blend the 2 pieces together where they meet, or your trim tool, your wood trim tool there works really well to blend the 2 pieces. Again, I like to just make a really strong bond when I slab build and connect my slabs. Now, if you're working on a much larger piece than this, and you want to put your slab or your coil in there, you're gonna have to get in there with something that you can reach in there with. I'm using my wood trim tool, works pretty good. So I'm just coming along on that last 2 sides there and using the tool to blend the coils in there. And now I know I've got a really strong little box there, which is the body of the old-timey outhouse there. So I'm just kind of patting it down a little, making sure it's nice and level. Time to put the roof on. So got a little slab there. I kind of trace out the angle of the roof that I wanted. Held it up against the side, got that angle. Now I'm cutting off a bit so that I can just stick my roof on there, and it's going to create that nice angle I want for the roof. Notice how I cut it at like a 45 so that the roof will just sit right on nice. I'm going to roll that out, just kind of make it a little more even. Paddle it a little bit. Getting in more of a uniform cut. Now I can throw my roof on there. Try to figure out the composition of it. Slip and score it on. You can see I've already scored the roof there behind. Get it nice and wet. Score it up. Slap the roof on there. Roof's on. Now time for the floor. So I unwrapped my slab. Trace out the floor. All the little pieces too that I've been cutting off, all the little chunks. I keep those wrapped up. You can see them in the background there because I can use those little chunks for details further down the road. So I'm going to slip and score the floor on. Make sure you do a really good job slipping and scoring these because you can't really get in there with a coil on the inside for extra strength. So now I'm paddling it down, just making sure it's really attached very well. Time for some details here. I'm going to start working on the details of this old-timey outhouse here. This will be the door. So that's some of that scrap that I was just talking about. I unwrapped it, pulled out a chunk, and making these little boards out of the scraps that I cut off earlier. I really try to utilize all my clay. I recycle everything. I think it's really important to be conscious of what we're doing these days and, you know, really trying to reuse and recycle as much as we can. You know, clay is a beautiful, precious material. We want to be just conscious of what we do with it, how we use it, and reusing it as much as we can. So slip and score my door on. All the little pieces get slip and scored on. Now, I'm using the sponge there just as kind of like a pad so I don't mess up my roof. As I work on the bottom of the floor there, I'm going to add on another extra inch to kind of lift it all up. And again, I'm just using the sponge. It's dry. It's not wet. I'm using the dry sponge as a pad so I don't mess up the roof. A big chunk of foam is a really good thing to have in your home studio when you're working on sculptures and stuff, because you can rest your piece on the foam and it won't distort. So I'm just going around with that 1 inch extra strip. Gonna paddle it down a little bit, make sure it's nice and stuck on there. And a little paddle there, a little tap, tap, taparoo there. Gonna go around, smooth all that in. Now I got my extra coil. You all know now how I like to put the extra coil in just to make all my connections stronger. And go around and put that in there and smooth it all in, blend it all in. Just go all the way around, get that coil in. Now here I've buttressed the corners in there. And the reason I've done that is to give the outhouse body more support on that slab there, so it's stronger. That'll help it hold up better. Now I've got most of my little details there worked out, got the composition of the details worked out. And once I've gone around and done that, then I pull them back off and I slip and score everything on. So here I am adding an extra little coil in to the corner there to make that a little stronger so it doesn't break off. And after I've slipped and scored all these little pieces and parts on, then I come through and I spend a lot of time detailing everything back out, carving the boards in deeper, adding texture, stuff like that. So just making sure that's really on there. Now I can put my little step on. Here we go. What do I got going here? Oh, this is my little chimney here, or it's the ventilation pipe, the breather pipe there. Got that on. Now I'm gonna cut my door out. I'm gonna go around 3/4 of the way and cut the door so that I can then get in there with my fettling knife and kind of pry it open, kind of open it up a little bit. It gives it a little more character, a little more depth in the front. This is an old outhouse. It's been out in the woods a long time. The door doesn't even really close all the way anymore. But, that's okay. There's no one around if you're in there. So there, opening the door up a little, giving it a little more character. I'm going to come through and cut the window out. So I slipped and scored that frame on already. Now I'm cutting the window out. We don't want to be in there in the total dark. We want some light coming in through there and some fresh air. So now I've got an old chopstick there, and I'm just doing the old hinges, putting the hinges on the door there. So that's just a chopstick that I kind of carved the bend down into a square. Now I got one of my little tools here and detailing it out, putting those rusty old hinges on there. I got my little loop tool. I can kind of hollow out the breather pipe there for the ventilation. There's just tons of great tools out there, and you can really kind of expand your texture vocabulary and what you can do with all these little cool tools you can get for ceramics. So I'm just coming in, and now I'm gonna make a little indentation around the breather pipe there to make it look like it's really popping out through the roof. So I've just gone around and kind of pushed in like a 1/16 of an inch all around that, maybe a little more, and I'm just going to come in and carve that out and clean it up a bit. Now that pipe really looks like it's sticking through the roof. Here we go, doing some more detail work on the underside of the roof there. I decided I wanted to actually make this into a little lidded box, like a jewelry box, or maybe you could put a candle in there or something. So I'm cutting the roof off with my X-Acto knife. What I've done is I've kind of gone around the whole thing and traced it out kind of how I wanted to do it. Now I just cut it off with the X-Acto knife, and it pops right off. And I did it all like undulated like that, following the boards, because I wanted it to integrate into the outhouse, kind of help hide it a little bit. Now I do a lot of negative space on the bottom of my work. I like to come in and kind of carve some negative space under my work. Now I'm working on the roof again. I got my cool little pin carving tool there, and I'm just coming around and cleaning all that. You really see how it looks like it's popping out now. I'm taking the X-Acto knife, making some deeper lines in. The more kind of deeper lines you can put in just will provide you with more surface depth to all your texture on your work. So you can see how that really looks pretty good when you put those deeper lines in. Now I'm gonna carve through where I cut the roof off, again to help integrate the roof better into the body. And that's pretty much how it goes, folks. Spend a lot of time detailing it, but thanks for watching. If you got any questions, DM me or shoot me an email. Peace.